Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into how a completely cluttered, failing app transformed into one of the most valuable tech acquisitions in history, literally just through the power of subtraction. We're looking at the wild journey of Instagram. It's an absolute masterclass in product focus, timing, and, most importantly, having the guts to abandon your original vision when the data is screaming that you're wrong.
Let's jump right into a staggering number. In April 2012, Facebook agreed to buy a company with absolutely zero advertising revenue and honestly no real revenue model at all for roughly $1 billion in cash and stock. Back then, that was completely unprecedented. $1 billion for a company that was only 18 months old and hadn't made a single dime. The entire tech world was completely stunned.
And you know what brilliantly illustrates the paradox here? They achieved this massive billion-dollar valuation with a team of only about 13 employees. Just think about that leverage for a second. We're talking about a baker's dozen of people, including founders Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, keeping a platform running that was processing thousands of photo uploads every single second. So how in the world did they pull that off?
Section 1. The Burbn Problem, where the journey began. See, this astronomical growth didn't actually start with Instagram. Back in 2009, Kevin Systrom built a product called Burbn. He and Mike Krieger raised $500,000 from some pretty prominent investors to build it out. But Burbn was, well, it was a mess. It was an incredibly crowded, overly complex app. You could check in at locations, announce your future plans, earn points, upload photos, all crammed into the exact same place. It was confusing, and honestly, it lacked a real reason to exist, especially in a market that was already heavily dominated by check-in giants like Foursquare and Gowalla. I mean, why would anyone switch to a more confusing version of what they were already using? The fix was ruthless. Notice exactly what they removed. Systrom and Krieger just axed their location check-ins. They got rid of the points. They completely scrapped the meetup plans. They chopped absolutely everything out of Burbn except for one highly specific workflow, photo sharing, along with some basic social feedback, like comments and likes. They basically took this bloated Swiss Army knife of an app and turned it into a scalpel. Section 2. The pivot to simplicity, following the data. Now, the crucial turning point here is that they didn't just blindly keep adding features to try and save their struggling app. They actually stopped, swallowed their pride, and looked at the data. And the founders' original assumptions? They stood in stark contrast to the hard truth of actual user behavior. Systrom and Krieger thought people wanted a location-based check-in app to beat Foursquare. But the analytics showed that the few users they did have were completely ignoring those check-ins. Instead, they were exclusively using the app to share and look at photos. The initial vision was totally wrong, but the users were pointing them right toward the goldmine. So they leaned heavily into this concept of addition by subtraction. Now, it is incredibly difficult for product teams to just throw away code they've spent months and thousands of dollars building. Every discarded feature feels like wasted effort, right? But they've realized that creating massive product value actually meant removing those non-essential features and relentlessly focusing on that single core behavior. Abandoning the wrong idea wasn't a failure for them. It was literally the only way to save the company. They also spotted a massive gap in the market at that exact moment. On one side, you had apps like Hipstamatic. Hipstamatic had these beautiful vintage filters that made average smartphone photos look amazing, but it was incredibly hard to actually share those photos with your friends. On the other side, you had Facebook. Huge built-in network, but their mobile photo uploading experience was clunky and, let's be honest, pretty terrible. Systrom and Krieger figured out that if they could just bridge that gap, if they could combine beautiful filters with incredibly easy social distribution, they would win the whole market. Section 3. Explosive growth. Unprecedented momentum. The sheer speed of what happened next is just wild. The founders rebranded the app to Instagram, which is a clever little blend of instant camera and Telegram. They launched on the iPhone App Store on October 6, 2010, and the response was immediate. It wasn't a trickle of interest. They gained roughly 25,000 users on the very first day. The market was absolutely starving for this exact solution, and people instantly understood what the app was for. And the reason they understood it so quickly was because of this incredibly frictionless 3-step viral loop. Step 1, you take a square photo. Step 2, you apply a high-quality filter like X Pro 2 or Early Bird, which instantly makes the photo look polished and professional. Step 3, you instantly share it. But not just to your Instagram feed, you seamlessly cross-post it to Facebook and Twitter. This cross-posting feature was revolutionary at the time.
By piggybacking on the massive, already established networks of Facebook and Twitter, every single photo shared outside the app effectively acted as a free advertisement for Instagram. It was a Trojan horse straight into the largest social graphs on the internet. The resulting user growth was breathtaking. Thanks to that viral loop, they hit 1 million users in roughly 2 months by December 2010. By September 2011, they reached 10 million. And then they skyrocketed to roughly 30 million users by April 2012, right as they finally launched their highly anticipated Android app, which, by the way, saw over 1 million downloads on its first day alone. Really, their only problem now was surviving their own popularity and trying to keep their servers from catching fire.
Section 4. Facebook comes calling. The $1 billion offer.
By this point, Instagram found itself at the center of a very complex web of stakeholders. You've got the founders and investors backing the tech, you have a massive user base generating content, but you also have major competitors circling. You see, people were rapidly moving their daily computing habits from desktop computers over to smartphones, and Instagram controlled the single most valuable new behavior on those devices: mobile photo creation and sharing. They were capturing the world's attention in real time.
And the funding history shows you exactly how fast things were escalating. After a $7 million Series A in 2011, let's fast forward to April 2012. In just a matter of days, Instagram closed a $50 million Series B funding round from top-tier venture capitalists, valuing this tiny company at $500 million. Only days after that closed, Mark Zuckerberg swoops in and effectively doubles it, offering an astonishing $1 billion to acquire them.
So why in the world buy an app with zero revenue for $1 billion? Well, it was a masterful strategic chess move. First, Facebook wanted to buy mobile attention and completely control photo creation on smartphones, which they absolutely knew was the future. Second, it was a strong offensive move to capture a rapidly growing, highly engaged network before it got too massive to buy. And third, it was a highly defensive strike. They needed to lock out the competitors. Twitter, for example, had reportedly already offered to buy Instagram for $500 million. So Facebook paid a massive premium just to neutralize that threat and secure their own dominance.
Section 5. The power of subtraction. The core lesson. Ultimately, Facebook wasn't just buying a codebase or a handful of servers. They were buying the incredible result of a small team's willingness to scrap their own hard work to find the right path. The main takeaway from this incredible journey is that success didn't come from endlessly adding features to a mediocre product. It came from the absolute courage to strip away the noise. Systrom and Krieger had to separate their own egos and founder expectations from actual user behavior. They treated their previous work on Burbn as evidence, not as some permanent obligation. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to apply to your own projects, your business, or even just your daily workflow. What features or ideas are you holding onto right now that you desperately need to subtract? Because as the Instagram story proves, sometimes removing everything is the only way to find the one thing that actually works. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.